Hey everyone, it's Sarah Spiker here. How are you? A recent conversation reminded me of a video that I saw about 2 years ago by Jason Silva. And he was talking about whether or not we can change our past. If you don't know who Jason Silva is, I recommend you look him up. His philosophy and ability to convey different ideas and articulate big complex concepts is not just incredibly mesmerizing, but is really eye-opening, and it allows for shift of perception. It allows us to see things from a different perspective and even change the way we think about certain things. And so this particular video about whether or not we can change the past is one of those. Can we change something that has already happened? And the answer, plain and simple, is of course. By shifting our perception, we shift our memory of how it happened. We change how we feel about what happened. Doesn't necessarily change the event itself, but our outlook on it. And this is what is so fascinating to me when I reflect on my own journey, or when I work with my clients and we are mapping out what the next thing is for them, and we're tapping into this big vision. And at one point or another, it almost feels like it is really clear that when we are conceptualizing about this big vision, and we know these are all the elements we'll have to take care of, these are all the steps that we'll take, and they feel like a fraction of the big picture. But the closer that we get, it's almost like when you see something from a distance and you're getting closer and closer, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And at one point, it can really become overwhelming, because just this one piece is now this wall in front of you, and it feels like, shoot, what now? So this is a very important conversation to have, or a tool to have in your toolbox, because it literally allows you to create a future of your most deepest, most vibrant, most incredible desires, as opposed to being like a candle in the wind and just landing wherever that wind lands you. It allows you to take control of your future, but not as a control freak, in a very different way. And I'm having a challenge right now finding the right words, but I trust that you know exactly what I'm trying to convey here. So let's talk about creating this future of yours, and what does shifting the perception has to do with it. So I was in a conversation with a client who is, again, taking a big leap in their life. And one of the obstacles that was coming up for them was whether or not to make a clear cut and burn the bridges, or use the time and build in a time for a transition period. And part of them wanted to really just, set this thing on fire and walk away. A part of them knew that the responsible thing to do, the thing that is more in alignment with their character, would be to create this transition where they could not only have peace of mind, but they also would be able to build the support they needed to bridge that gap, to get to the other side. However, of course, as always, the past experiences, the stories, feelings, beliefs are coming up. So they were really unsure of what is truly in alignment with them, what is that truly in integrity, what would be the right thing for them to do, even though they already knew it in their heart, right? So my offer, my invitation or suggestion, if you are feeling that way, is something that I have always done for myself too. And it's really, really simple. It literally takes giving yourself space, giving yourself the time and giving yourself the gift of going through every single thing that is coming up for you when you're thinking about this vision of yours, when you're thinking about that next step of yours, when you're thinking about the next 5 steps, all the buts, all the what ifs, all the, the questions and the doubts, acknowledge them, write them down, and address them one by one. And then the second part is to simply see where, not only what is even yours and what is not yours to begin with, but for things that are yours, can you see things from a different perspective? Can you simply shift the perception around it and continuously tweak it until it feels right? Because from my own personal experience, every single thing can be seen from many different angles, and every different vantage point will bring you a different field of possibilities. It will evoke different thoughts and different feelings, and you can literally tinker around with it as you are distorting it, as you're releasing it, as you are reshaping, redefining things for yourself. And then as you're moving along, you move forward with what feels right for you. Now, what feels right for you, again, requires some level of self-mastery. So when you are in tune with your body, when you can quiet down your mind and feel into things, here's how you're gonna feel the difference. Things that feel heavy, thoughts, ideas, beliefs, perceptions that feel heavy, that feel confining, that feel like they're pulling you down, they're most likely not yours. They are a construct of your mind, and they require some more work to do. On the contrary, your truth feels light. It feels expansive. It feels limitless. It feels energizing. It almost feels like your heart comes home, your soul comes home. Now, chances are, if you are like me or my clients, we are still on this journey. Our lives are still a beautiful, glorious mess. And in every single one of the messes, there still is a message. And there still are, I want to say little voices that are coming up, and they keep going, mwah, 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 but. Be kind to yourself. Release the need to judge or to shame or to guilt yourself. If things are coming up, again, acknowledge every single one of those voices, but then you have the choice, as always. Is this stone particular, to use a metaphor, is it stone that you need to turn around and examine and go down the rabbit hole again, over and over and over again? Or does that belong under some umbrella belief that you already have worked through, and you have already established that you are enough, indeed, that you indeed are worthy, that you indeed are safe? And if so, can you then elevate yourself from the minutia, level up and level up and level up? And this is how you continue making not just the next step and the next step and the next step, but you can literally leap forward as you do this work. So again, this whole conversation reminded me of, like I said earlier, whether or not we can change the past, which we already established we can change the past. So now, applying the same principles, we can create the future that we desire. The last piece of this equation, however, is a very interesting one as well. And as strategist, as myself, or alpha female, somebody who might be type A personality at times, and somebody who in the meantime, part of me has rounder edges, is playing in the softness of feminine energy, is playing in the limitlessness of this spiritual world, the 4D, 5D, and all the out layers and frequencies. It's way beyond the 3D in the physical world. creating the magic and miracles, right? So it's a beautiful dance between the two. It's getting loud out there with the little ones, so it's my cue to wrap this conversation up a little bit faster. So the last piece of this equation, as I mentioned, is this beautiful dance between trusting and controlling, knowing that the only thing we can control are our own responses. The only things we can control is our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our actions, the habits that we're creating, the results that we're creating. Everything else is pretty much out of our control. And if current reality, the pandemic, has taught us anything, is that we have very little control over things. So trusting is that piece that can get really slippery sometimes and really tricky. And here's something that I learned from one of my mentors also. Trust is so many things. It's not a gray area. You trust or you don't. It's fairly black and white. And one of the shortcuts, so to speak, that I have learned and I have been using too is simply retracking. Every single time a doubt comes up and I was like, well, can I really trust the process? I don't really trust the process. I need to control it. I can't just relinquish the control. What if, right? Well, let's get pragmatic. Did you get up from the bed this morning? Did you get yourself dressed? Did you make yourself breakfast? Did you take care of your kids? Did you hop on a call? Did you respond to the email? Were you on a meeting on time? Yes? Okay, so obviously you can't trust yourself. What's the question? Right? It's simply, again, choosing the angles and perception. It is simply choosing what we focus on and what we give attention to. And last but not least, if you have been a student of Law of Attraction and Abraham Hicks, that's all there is to it, right? It's literally focusing and giving our attention to what, let me rephrase that, what we focus on expands. Simple as that. And the universe, God, whatever higher power, the source that you are conversing and co-creating with, right? They don't necessarily understand good or bad, yes or no, I want that, but I don't want that. They simply focus on what is that thing that is in your focus, in your energy. I don't want to be stressed out. Well, the message that is being received is stress. So how can we serve you more opportunities to be stressed out? I want ease and flow. Great, ease and flow. But now is the tricky part. Can we really trust into the ease and flow? Or is there some part of the past experiences that's coming up that says, yeah, well, ease and flow are really tricky. You're not really worthy of it because, from all the past experiences, and you have been indoctrinated and domesticated into believing that you have to hustle and grind for results. It's a beautiful work in progress. It's like an onion that we keep on peeling. And I said it in past, and I'm going to say it again. Oftentimes on this journey, what happens is that it's a spiral. And things, beliefs, thoughts, stories, patterns that we worked on at one point, they're going to resurface again. And we're going to be able to approach them with new experiences, with new expertise, with a new outlook, with newer, better understanding of who we are and how we operate. So we'll probably have the tools to resolve them faster, easier, in a less painful way. But it doesn't mean that at every single layer, every single level, they will not be resurfacing. Ultimately, they will be resurfacing for as long as there's some lesson for us to learn in there. And it's called life. that's the beauty of life. It really is. And when I look at my own life, there's an interesting paradox that happened at one point when, looking back, and again, it's been something that has been confirmed with my mentors, with my colleagues, with my friends, with my clients. I think many of us have experienced it too, who are on a journey similar to where you and I are. At one point, we were totally oblivious to anything else but the 3D world. Let's put it that way. And things are just happening, and it's awesome, and it's a coincidence, and it's just, a circumstance, an incident, an accidentally, a surprise, right? Once you start to play into the field of all these limitless possibilities, the field of quantum physics, if you will, spiritual world, energetic world, initially it's like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. There's, the initial principles are super simple. And it's like, oh yeah, now I get it. Now I have the vocabulary for it. Now I can identify it. It's really simple, awesome. And we are so eager, we jump right in. But the more we start to learn, the more we start to realize how much there is that we have no idea about, how much there is yet to process, to understand, to examine, to experience. And it's not just the world of spirituality or the world of energy or quantum physics, or it can literally be applied to any field. And it's this interesting learning curve that the more that you know, the more you understand, the more you see how much more there is to it. Kind of this level of confidence sometimes can start decreasing, and it can be really tricky when this initial naivete almost, and this initial excitement and can-do attitude can really quickly start to disappear, and is being replaced by this self-doubt and fear, because now you know how many more things can possibly go wrong, and now you have the understanding that as we are responsible for ourselves, we create our own reality, we create our own future. It can be really easy to go down the rabbit hole and try to overturn every single stone and dismantle every belief and really dissect every single thought, and it can be really time consuming. But again, by doing this work, then it at least has been in my experience that processes that sometimes took a year or a month or would fully consume me and would feel overwhelming, now the whole process can happen in a matter of moments when with the awareness, like, oh, I notice this is coming up. Interesting. How can I process? How can I dismantle? How can I release? How can I reframe? Oh, good, done, right? Next. It becomes faster. It becomes much easier. Now, it still doesn't mean that there's no obstacles along the way. It still doesn't mean that our lives are, always rainbows and sunshine. Absolutely not. We have tools that are now at our disposal that we have mastered to make it that way, to turn even the most gruesome heartbreak, deepest pain, and the most paralyzing grief, and see the light in it, see a lesson in it, see gift in it. We can take the biggest disappointment, we can take horrendous failure, what some would perceive the failure, and it no longer defines us, it no longer consumes us, and we no longer see ourselves as a failure, but it's like, oh, great, another stepping stone, in my journey. Another lesson, maybe a crossroad where now I can make a sharp right turn. Why not? It just shifts the whole perception. Or now with all this awareness, we can go into the past and see, okay, great, this was the experience that I still hold a grudge for, and I still feel a lot of insecurities, and I feel being deeply judged, and I feel it was really unfair. Well, with new perception, with new understanding, with new tools, we're now maybe able to see that, hey, interesting, because that experience in the past, it wasn't even about us. We made it about us, and we took on all the weight, and we took on this heaviness and the cloak of it, and it's not even us. So we can literally just put it down and move on with our lives, and it no longer consumes us. It no longer holds us back. It's no longer like a hook that's pulling us back, or an anchor that's weighing us down. Simple. So let me know how this resonates with you. Let me know what this offers to you. Let me know how this serves you. Because here's another part that I, again, have mentioned in the past too. There are so many different ways in how we can communicate an experience like this. And in some ways along the journey, things will resonate with us. Sometimes they will trigger us. Sometimes we'll be completely unfazed, impartial. If this is something that intrigues you and motivates you, and if this is something that you know that there's so much more to it, and that you want to explore deeper, you want to learn more about it, you want to master it, so that you can literally not only change the trajectory of your life, but you can literally radically shift, change, upgrade yourself and your life and everything else around it. I'm more than happy to have this conversation with you. And likewise, if anything in this conversation is triggering, it's a beautiful invitation for you to take a deeper look into why there is, and what's in it for you. What can you take away from it? And if it's leaving you totally unfazed, that's perfect. It's perfect. It gets to be perfect as well. Either way, I honor you, and I'm grateful that you chose to be here and you're sharing this time and space with me. And thank you for allowing me to share my own experiences with you and express this. If you know of anybody who could use this message, let them know about this video. Share this video with them, or bring them over so they can see it. Other than that, I will catch you next time. And I look forward to continuously serving and supporting you, kicking your ass a little bit, challenging you, inspiring, motivating. You know, one of my friends said the other day, she's like, you are such an interesting person to know, because you can give this most comfortable, soothing bubby hug, and in the meantime, you can bring a torch and we burn the whole thing down, and it just gets to be perfect. It's always perfect. It always is exactly what's required. So again, here to serve you, here to support you, here to kick your ass, here to challenge you, whatever it is that you require to get to, not just to where you want to be, whether it's doing more or doing something different. It starts by becoming who you ought to be, which is usually way beyond what you can even right now see as possible for you to begin with. So I invite you to step up and play into limitless possibilities, because not only the sky is the limit, there are no limits when you, again, set your mind to it, and when you shift the perception around what is or is not possible and why, and when you choose to take the leap, and when you choose to show up for yourself, and when you choose to take radical responsibility to make those radical changes. There's no words to describe it. You can only feel into it, and I do invite you to feel into it. So, without further ado, you know where to find me. I will talk to you soon. Take care.